Welcome to Mrs. True Crime, and Happy Black History Month. Today's video is an in-depth look into the murders of Herbert Lee and Lewis Allen, its tale of brutality and speculation. If you are triggered by anything dealing with death, feel free to click off this video. Perhaps check out my gaming channel, Retell Me Games, for some lighthearted content. If not, I'm Nicole. Let's get started. The Civil War gave birth to 3 new amendments to the Constitution: the 13th, which abolished slavery; the 14th, which granted African American citizenship; and the 15th, which outlawed discrimination in voting rights. The law forbade anyone to discriminate people from voting based on race, color, or previous conditions of servitude, but it didn't automatically guarantee anyone the right to vote. The South took advantage of this notion by refusing African Americans the right to vote by a number of reasons, including a literacy test and poll taxes. It wouldn't be until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that blacks were given the right to vote, but that wouldn't mean no one fought for the right to do so sooner. It begins with the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, founded in 1909 in New York City. Its main agenda? To provide equal rights for all and eliminate discrimination. While the organization was putting dents into the judicial system, Ella Baker wanted more. Persuading Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. into giving her $800, she held a conference at Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. The conference, at first, was to bring together the students involved in the sit-in movements, such as the Greensboro Four, but soon it evolved into the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC. Baker encouraged the SNCC to look beyond integration to broader social change, and the organization did. On Baker's influence, Robert Bob Moses went to Mississippi in 1960 to meet with local NAACP leader Amzie Moore, and this sparked the SNCC's first voter registration project. Having been a charter member of the Almite County chapter of the NAACP since the 1950s, dairy farmer Herbert Lee obliged to drive Moses around to encourage blacks to register to vote. Herbert Lee, born January 1, 1912, was raised in Almite County, Mississippi. He didn't have much of an education, but he could sign his own name, courtesy of his wife, Prince. Together the two had 9 children. Lee tried to avoid racial aggression when his children were present, but he was firm in his beliefs and membership with the NAACP. The Almite County chapter was founded by one of his boyhood friends, E.W. Steptoe. Steptoe, Lee, and Moses organized a voting school in a church on Steptoe's property, which angered the Caucasian community. Assistant U.S. Attorney John Doerr learned that E.H. Hearst, Lee's boyhood friend and member of Mississippi State Legislature, threatened to harm activists in Almite, yet the government refused to protect Lee or anyone else involved. Hearst and Lee lived next door to one another and got along cordially as they aged, but when Lee joined the NAACP, their relationship hit a sour note. Passing each other at a cotton gin on September 25, 1961, Hearst and Lee exchanged a few words. Lee was sitting in his pickup truck, an unlit cigarette in his mouth, as Hearst, outside the truck, declared, "I'm not playing around this time," as he held a pistol in his hands. Lee told Hearst he wouldn't talk to him until he put the gun down. So Hearst lowered his weapon, and Lee stepped out of his vehicle. Hearst rushed around to Lee and pulled the trigger. Lee's body laid on the ground for 2 hours until a coroner could be called. The murder took place in broad daylight, in front of at least a dozen witnesses, but only 5 would testify: A.B. Westbrook and Jack Reynolds, both white; Jesse Anderson, Reverend Orr Marshall, and Lewis Allen, all black. The witnesses would state that Lee and Hearst exchanged words, but Lee had a tire iron and threatened Hearst with it. Hearst fired the gun in self-defense. With this testimony, Hearst wouldn't be charged for Lee's murder, and the investigation seemingly closed. But after a month, witness Lewis Allen couldn't allow himself to let the soul of a dead man be tarnished. Lewis Allen was born and raised in Liberty, Mississippi. He was a World War II vet and ran a small timber business. He was married with 4 children: Tommy, Henry, also known as Hank, Elaine, and Mary. He got along well with either side of the racial spectrum, but when John Doerr wanted an investigation into Lee's death, Allen couldn't sit idly by. Doerr was rejected 3 times to reopen the Lee case, and when it was opened, the SNCC knew they needed a witness for a federal case. Allen confided in Julian Bond, a member of the SNCC, and Bob Moses about Lee's death. He explained what he saw, and that he was escorted to a courthouse in Liberty, where he was coerced into lying. Allen stated he did so out of fear. He then told the FBI and the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights asking for protection, but the FBI refused to provide it. He then recanted his story, but word had already begun to spread. Allegedly, Allen was told about a plot by the sheriff and 7 other men by his daughter-in-law to get him. She was told this information by her employer. From there, Allen would be harassed and threatened continuously for 3 years. Allen's business suffered and his debts grew. July 1962, Deputy Sheriff Daniel Jones arrested him for interfering with the law. Reports differ in what interference Jones was referring. One report states that it was a misunderstanding that involved Allen going to the jail for a woman who asked him to make a call for her, while another states that he placed himself in the middle of a case between black shoplifters in the jail. Whatever the case may be, when Jones arrived at Lee's house, he was not informative. Allen asked what the charges were and if he could get his hat. Jones told him he couldn't, so Allen then asked if his son could and turned his face to Hank. When he did so, Jones struck him with his flashlight, breaking his jawbone. Allen filed an affidavit, but it was thrown out. His next arrest was at a gas station. Allen had a gun for protection, kept in the glove box of his truck. Jones told Allen to get out of his car as he searched the truck. He found the gun and arrested him for carrying a concealed weapon. August 1963, Mrs. Allen hit her head while playing with their youngest child and went to the doctor to get stitches. Jones was there, either by chance or otherwise, and asked for her to answer a few questions, his main one asking if Allen hit her. She denied this, but Jones and the local department would use this incident to their advantage. November 1963, Allen was arrested for writing a bad check. His trial was to be held March 1964 in Jackson, but he'd been warned to get out of town by January 1964. He was released on an $800 bond paid for by the NAACP. Allen wanted to get out of Liberty, but he couldn't leave his sick mother. But when she died in late 1963, he decided he was going to take refuge in Milwaukee in February 1964. While he set out for a change, someone was watching him. According to a report by an unknown witness, 2 cars were parked on the road to Allen's house around 10 a.m. on the day of his death. Perhaps not noticing, Allen set out for work recommendations, but no one would help, claiming helping him would be helping a communist. At around 6 or 7, Allen left his house to go to Lloyd King's place. King remembers speaking to him at 8:10 p.m. 2 cars were seen following Allen. One was a cream tan Ford 61 with 2 men inside. The other, a black Ford 60 with only 1 man inside. Allen arrived at his home around 8:30 p.m. In the driveway, he tried to undo the loop of barbed wire to open his gate, but something or someone spooked him and he ducked underneath his truck. At 8:35 p.m., Mrs. Allen heard 3 shots, but paid it no attention. She went to the window repeatedly, only seeing the lights from Lewis's truck. Had she gone out, she would have found her deceased husband. Lewis Allen's body was found around midnight by his son Hank. Hank arrived home and was confused why his dad would leave his car in the driveway. He got in to move it, and when he stepped out, he landed on his father's hand. Lewis had been shot close and hard enough that his face was nearly unrecognizable. He'd been killed with deer shots. Now Sheriff Daniel Jones led the investigation of Allen's death. Jones lived 2 miles from the Allen home and was woken up, according to reports, by Hank and Allen's nephew. Under Jones's direction, the case had a lot of dead ends. The assumption was that Allen's killer may be part of his family, and that his domestic violence against his wife didn't help matters. Allen was also said to have played a role in the voting registration. But according to his wife, he tried to vote twice and was rejected both times and never went back. Lewis Allen wasn't involved in voting beyond that. The case was closed soon, but reopened in 2006 by the FBI. It has yet to be solved. 60 Minutes did a special on Lewis Allen in 2011 that figured Daniel Jones as either the killer or involved. At the time, he refused a lie detector test or to comment on the case as a whole. He died 2 years later, taking what he knew to the grave. As of 2018, the murder of Lewis Allen remains unsolved, but the deaths and harassments in Amite County didn't end. Jack White, Cleveland Walker, and Reverend James Caston were told to leave town by Daniel Jones. Members of the Parish Hill Baptist Church were warned to no longer hold services. Between Pike and Amite County, many black businesses and homes were burned to the ground. At Herbert Lee's funeral, Prince, his wife, accused Bob Moses of killing him. When Lewis Allen died, Moses rose his voice to support what would become the Mississippi Freedom Summer Project, a voter registration drive for African Americans. Though Herbert Lee and Lewis Allen were murdered for different reasons, their values were the same. They wanted to protect their family, but more importantly, do what they felt was right. Lee wanted to encourage the voices of black citizens, and Allen wanted to give a voice to a dead man. I'm Mrs. True Crime, and remember to be kind, be loud, be aware. For more information about Herbert Lee or Lewis Allen, why not check out some of these awesome links? And if you like what you saw and heard today, why not drop a like and a comment? Maybe subscribe while you're here. I make new videos every Tuesday and Friday, and you don't want to miss what's in store.